The Reef Therapy Podcast is powered by ICP Analysis. If you'd like to win a free saltwater ICP analysis kit and a freshwater analysis kit, all you have to do is leave a comment down below using the hashtag What's in Your Water. If you're listening to the audio-only version, head on over to YouTube and you can enter in the comment section there. ICP Analysis will test over 50 elements down to parts per trillion. These tests can also be used to see if there's any undesirable elements in your aquarium as well. Register your aquarium on the ICP Analysis app, fill your sample, place it back into the bag, slap on that included postage, and have your results 1 to 3 days after it's received. More at icpanalysis.com.
All right, everybody, welcome back to Reef Therapy Ladies Takeover. I'm going to be leading our session this go around. I'm Sarah, and with me I have Jen and Chelsie today. Unfortunately, we don't have Evie with us, but we're hoping she'll join us next session. Hopefully we do it justice, even though we don't have her with us. So we're going to kick it off by going around the horn, talking a little bit about our tanks and what's going on in them. So Chelsie, what's going on with your tanks right now?
So I'll just talk about my home tank because I've decided to do some new things. I'm going to start doing some ammonia dosing because I've had chronically low nitrate, phosphate, everything. Do not run a skimmer on my home tank. Mm-hmm. I don't run mechanical media, so it just has done this naturally for 5 years. It's been really low, and I thought adding fish would be the fix for it, but it's not. So I've decided to switch from adding, I used Brightwell nitrate or neo nitrate. Yeah. Neo nitro for a while. And that it's great. But after hearing, who was talking about that? Was that Sanjay? A couple of people have been talking about switching over to dosing ammonia because that's what corals actually uptake. So I got the dose up and I just need to order the product that I'm going to use for that. So I'm pretty excited to track that.
Nice. It'll be cool to see how your coral are impacted, not only your water chemistry. And I have big colonies. Yeah, I'm hoping that I have a lot of LPS, so they're pretty brightly colored. But maybe I see some growth on some of the Favias that are closer encrusting pieces. But I'll keep you updated. All right, Jen, what's going on with your tanks?
Well, my tank is currently empty, as it has been for 3 years. We people ask all the time. So, we have the 600 upstairs that we are looking to fill. We finally have decided, obviously we're doing a reef tank. My husband wanted a fish only, but he got voted out. So we did get the sump. So that is now, we've had it for a little bit, but I unboxed it. So that's a big step. We're doing the big dream box sump. So the sump is 200 gallons. So it was a custom done by Royal Exclusive. It has a huge roller mat. It has LEDs and it probably has all these other things that I'll never ever use, but the roller mats are amazing. So they're huge. And so I'm excited. We'll do a whole build out when we finally do it. I'm guessing it'll be closer to fall though, with all the baseball and all the other rando things that we're doing right now. But as far as the tanks at the store, they're doing fantastic. So a lot of growth, a lot of fragging. My chalices for some reason have really taken off, which is, I don't really know why, but we've been doing a ton of, we now grow our own, our own phytos. So we have gold and green, red. And so we've been feeding a lot of live food and I've seen an exponential growth in everything. So, and feeding response as well. So that I attribute it to that, but the chalices, they're kind of my thing. So I like to play with color and all that fun stuff with them, but they have really, really taken off. So that's exciting.
That's awesome. It's so cool when you make a change and it works out well, even better than you could have possibly imagined.
Yeah. It's awesome. Cause I have a new guy on my team. And so he's kind of taking it on himself. So we're doing a whole bunch of different types of pods, including amphipods too. So, just incorporating all of that into the natural, daily feeding regimen has really, really changed things for us.
That's awesome. We just opened up a new exhibit and focusing kind of on like Cambrian explosion, prehistoric animals. So we have this huge, like 180-gallon tank that's dedicated to baby horseshoe crabs.
Yep.
Which
Oh,
I
Lord.
thought baby horseshoe crabs were super cute, but apparently the general public does too. Because I've never gotten more praise for an invertebrate than just herd of little baby horseshoe crabs doing their thing, swimming chaotically, living their best life in this tank.
Good. I hope
Yes.
you
Oh my
guys
gosh.
can I hope you guys can
Was that
inform
accurate?
people
Was that really
too,
accurate?
how big they get so
Triggered.
that they don't put them in their aquariums. I'm glad that
Oh,
you guys are doing
absolutely.
that. Yeah.
We have
Probably
a touch
like
tank
a little.
that has adult ones.
Yeah.
So you see the adults and then you get to see the cute babies. Yeah,
Aw,
they're
that's right.
thankfully we have resources, so as they age out, we can either utilize them in our own touch tanks or we can find them homes at other zoos and aquariums who utilize them in touch tanks. So we're in a better situation than a lot of home aquarists would be when it comes to
Yeah, but just
starting
having
with
that as a resource to say, hey, look at these animals. They're really cute. They're really awesome, but they're not meant for your fish tank.
they're big.
They
They're
get
bulldozers.
huge.
They're also really bad at life and swimming and just
So
like
terrible
functioning.
at life. Is it
Aren't they
fully
semi-aquatic?
aquatic?
They're half land, half yeah.
I'm going the same place as you were with that, Jen.
Yeah.
This guy right now is currently fully aquatic.
Okay.
Granted, the exhibit's going to end in about 6 months, so we'll be able to transition them. We have some shallower tanks in the back where we can actually elevate part of it to allow for some
That's
terrestrial
super cool.
surfacing if we want to.
Okay.
There's
awesome.
a really fun podcast, and I'll have to look it up and we can link it later, but it's a whole podcast it's a whole episode on a podcast about horseshoe crabs. And it is absolutely amazing. As ridiculous as they are in person and to deal with in the hobby, they're actually amazing.
Aw.
They're so fascinating. Like for an animal that shows a body form about 250 to 350 million years ago and just kind of stuck with it. They're little tanks. They're used by so many different animals as food resources. Like so many shorebirds rely on them exclusively for food. And their blood has limulus amoeba lysate, LAL, which is an integral part of pharmaceuticals. It coagulates and clumps up in the presence of bacteria and toxins and things like that. So it's used to make sure that medications are safe for us.
That's what the podcast went into. That's why it was just so fascinating.
That's super cool.
Yeah. Who knew horseshoe crabs? Who saw that animal and was like, I think there's some pharmaceuticals.
You got more to you than just.
You've got more to you than that.
Than your hard
You've
candy
got
shell.
blue blood.
Yeah, their blood is so expensive too. I think for like pharmaceutical grade horseshoe crab blood, which they can harvest without harming the animals. There's some really cool work being done with aquaculturing them because most of the loss of horseshoe crabs happens during transit. So when they get them out of the ocean and they're transiting them to the labs to harvest the blood, there's a lot of cases of anoxia, which usually will lead to mortality. So like lack of oxygen in the transport. But when they do it in aquaculture, they had like a 100% success rate and didn't have any mortality. So really, I think it'll be really cool to see things like that start to grow so we can still have the really important pharmaceutical component without active harm to the animals. But yeah,
It's really sci-fi.
Yeah, so much sci-fi. They kind of, they break rules in all different ways, which is a great kickoff for our topic.
Oh, there you go. I like it.
She found a way to get us there.
That's fair. I like it.
This week, we're going to be talking about be good or be good at it, how we go about breaking the rules in our aquariums, because there's a lot of rules in reef keeping. We talk about rules a lot, but we're not saints. We all cut corners, and in this kind of judgment-free zone, we're going to talk all about all of the ways we cut corners, how we break rules, how do we do it successfully, and some of our greatest triumphs and our most spectacular failures.
So I think I kind of want to kick it off when people say that I haven't had anything wrong happen to me as a reefer. It's like, well, then
Oh,
either
they're
A,
liars.
you're lying, or B, you've been in it for about 5 days. So,
Or you have
yeah,
really short-term memory.
yes. And so we've all, like you're saying, we've all had our wonderful things that we've done. I think now the biggest one, I mean, because we're all like instant gratification, people want the tank right now. I know for you too, Chelsea, like for us doing aquarium maintenance, it's like, okay, can I add corals like tomorrow? Like, we just added water today. So cheating the system and doing stuff like that, I think is a really interesting, I call it insta tanking, when you can do it almost like a tank move. And so that's one of the things that I've been really good at, but there's definitely some components you have to do all of them and not just a few random, like you can't pick and choose which ones you'd want to do and which ones you don't want to do.
Yeah, breaking the rules is very. There's still rules to breaking the rules, if that makes sense. If you want to do it successfully, you really, I think we've talked about this a little bit. The more you learn, the more you understand about how the system works, the easier it is to start hacking it. And I think that's more. It's less breaking the rules; it's more hacking the system.
Yeah.
For instance, I work at a public zoo and aquarium, and we put together brand new animal exhibits. And while I would love to have an exhibit down for an entire month so I could fully cycle a tank, that's not always the reality of the situation. So we have to get really good at figuring out, okay, how do we get this tank cycled as much as possible? How do we protect animal welfare? How do we make sure that we're managing that nitrogen cycle in the time that we've got? So for me, a lot of it is hacking how nitrifying bacteria works. Oh, sorry. I had an addition of a cat. I'm going to say hello. So hacking how nitrifying bacteria works can help you kind of hack your nitrogen cycle and cycling your tank. So nitrifying bacteria, a lot like our coral, has limiting resources. Some of those limiting resources are also very similar to our coral: nitrogen, phosphorus. They're limited by oxygen levels, and they're also limited by alkalinity, which I think a lot of people don't pay attention to when they're cycling a tank. So if you've ever gotten a plateau, it could be because one of those different kind of nutrients or elements is out of balance. So for us, what we'll do is we'll try and make sure our oxygen is as high as possible. So we're throwing tons of air stones in a system. We ramp up that heat outside of the normal zone, so it's the metabolism of that bacteria is going quicker, usually 85 degrees Fahrenheit, maybe up to 88 Fahrenheit if we can push it. And this is all animalist
Pre-animal.
cycling.
Yeah.
With like ammonia chloride in. And then what we'll do is we'll push it. We'll push it as quickly as we can. So we'll dose with ammonium chloride. We use the purest kind of ammonium we can get. Because if you start off with, say, dead shrimp, you still have to go through mineralization to get to the nitrogen sources. So you'll go through a couple extra days, and I don't got time for that. I got to get this tank up. And usually, if we do it right, we cycle the right amount of ammonia, keep our ammonia levels where we kind of want them to be, to encourage growth of that bacteria. Usually, you don't want to go higher than about 4 parts per million. I've seen tanks get cycled in 4 days, which is, and like truly stable
That's awesome.
cycle, which is nuts.
And I think that, touching on all of those points, I mean, yes, you can cheat it, but you've taken very specific steps to cheat it. Not just like, oh, I'm going to pour a little of this, or I'm going to put a piece of shrimp in, and then tomorrow I'm going to go get corals, and then you're also monitoring what animals that you're putting in there. So, I mean, you guys obviously you're in the be good and be good at it. You know what I mean? Because I think that's really, really important. Part. What we do, we use seeded media. So we have big media bricks that we will use, like the marine pier bricks, or we'll use Apollo Lab bricks, or we have other types of things that are very porous, so we have established bacteria colonies. And so then we can use those if we want to. So it almost transitions to like an aquarium move. So we could even use heated water if we wanted to, but obviously that's not as effective as having big bio bricks to put into systems as well. And then using like live sand, and then using different types of like a live bacteria to add to it as well. Can create like a little mini cycle and then speed it up so that people don't, because like I said before, it's instant gratification. What can I get away with? What can I do with now?
And Sarah, you're using protocol on fresh and saltwater?
Oh, what was that? Is there a different protocol on fresh and saltwater?
Or is it the same?
It's usually the same. It's the same kind of, it is different bacteria, but usually the ammonia oxidizing bacteria reacts pretty similarly regardless of if it's fresh or saltwater, and same with the nitrite oxidizing bacteria. Mm-hmm. So really it's kind of the same formula, even if they might be just slightly different species.
Yeah.
But yeah, the biggest thing too is just like knowing those limiting factors. You'll sometimes, one of the biggest things I've seen if I have a tank that is just stuck somewhere in the cycling process is that the alkalinity is too low. You might have dropped down to like 3 DKH and not realized it, or in freshwater, or like you're at 5 DKH for saltwater, and those can actually really have a huge impact. So when you're running into problems, sometimes it's,
I actually didn't, that's something new. I'll be the first to admit that I didn't know that.
Yeah. I learned that probably 3 or 4 years ago from another aquarist he's like a whiz. This guy's all about doing weird things with aquariums. He like fed powdered peanut butter to jellyfish.
Oh boy. Oh no, Sarah, no, don't bring up peanut butter again. Salem's already got a hard time for his peanut butter.
Oh, well, I think I was the one who introduced him to that article.
Oh, you're to blame.
It was based in, it sounds crazy, but it's based in science. So a lot of peanuts were being used for a protein source as they were testing it for aquaculturing fish. So he was curious if you could do powdered peanut butter and use that as a jelly food, and found that when you fed out the powdered peanut butter the powdered peanuts to the jellies, the protein content was high enough to sustain them without loss of body mass. So it sounds insane, peanut butter and jellyfish, but in scientific practice, in the study he did, it actually was feasible. So I think that sometimes too, we hear crazy things, and with the background context, it makes sense, or it can work. But if you don't have all those pieces, it's really easy to run headfirst into a wall.
Throw peanuts in your tank and think
do not put peanut butter in your aquarium.
No, don't put peanut butter in your tank. You have to know what rules you can break. And putting peanut butter in your tank is not a rule to break. But yeah.
I'm glad we cleared that up.
I totally forgot about that too. So I'm glad you saved me, hopefully, from the comments.
On the sidebar, I'm going to take it a teeny little tangent of the funniest things I've actually found on maintenance visits that are in the aquarium for food. So I think I have some pretty good ones. I mean, Play-Doh was one of them. Of course, like the Legos, whatever. But I've also found cheese, sugar packets, raisins.
Are these commercial accounts?
Yes. So the cheese.
Okay, that makes more sense.
Yeah. So the cheese was in a secured unit at one of the VAs. I mean, they thought the fish were starving, but I don't know. I found lemons, oranges, a whole bunch of different vegetables. So what? I mean, my always response is, they're like, well, I thought they vary their diet. I'm like, yeah, because there's lots of lemons and oranges in the ocean.
Floating around.
So I mean, I found kind of a little bit of everything in the aquarium, but the Play-Doh was very bad, because it was it was like several containers of Play-Doh, and they were like literally wondering why their tank was cloudy. I'm like, okay. They weren't trying to feed it. I have no idea. The children were putting it in there, but I found socks. I found very, very random things over the last 20 some years. But the cheese takes the cake, I think.
The Play-Doh's pretty bad.
The Play-Doh's bad. You know what? I
kind of understand the cheese in a weird way, but the Play-Doh really throws me. But Chelsie, you
Play-Doh it was actually at a daycare center, so that kind of makes sense.
Oh,
but in this, bubbles too. Bubbles, putting bubbles into the tank, that was not a pleasant idea either. But I think that the one container of Play-Doh or the one ball of Play-Doh, like you think that they would have caught on to that, but there was like 3 of them. It's like, okay, now it became like a fun game, or I'm not really sure. But anyway, that's a tangent on the other side of like the funniest things that I found in a tank during maintenance.
I found money, and by money I mean coins.
Oh yeah, because it's fishing well.
Nothing valuable, but yeah, I did find money. I found bobby pins. We had a lot of my clients pre-mix water, and I have some commercial accounts that, you do it in a Brute trash can. So obviously that's a trash can in a restaurant. And I would find plastic silverware, like cupcake wrappers, all kinds of stuff. We would even write like, "This is not trash. Do not put your trash in here." Yeah. And I would open it up. It wasn't funny, but for a while I would send a picture of everything I would find in the trash bin to the owner. Like, today I found cupcake wrappers in our mixing bin.
Gosh.
What else do I need to write here? Like, do not touch for fear of electrical shock.
Read signs, please.
Right, please don't do this. Anyway, we can get back to what I thought that was on the sidebar. I thought that was noteworthy to talk about. I guess being good at trying to circumvent catastrophes by all the things that can end up in your aquarium. So, I mean, it actually can circle right back to having to recycle your tank, or having another tank to move everything to in case something like that happens, like an auto feeder failures. I think failures to allow people to kind of experiment, I guess, in a very short amount of time, like things that they can use or get away with to save whatever's left.
Yeah, I think definitely. Every good aquarist has a spare aquarium somewhere. Just go ahead
or your bathtub, or you know what I mean, garbage can. Whatever.
Things that we put animals in that they weren't necessarily meant to be tanks. There's one for you.
Yeah. Well, talking about things that you don't. I think to a degree, the DIY mentality of a lot of hobbyists is in a way breaking a lot of rules, right? Mm-hmm. Now, there are definitely beautiful, pristine sumps out there, but I have definitely used a Rubbermaid bin for a sump. Yeah. Like, if it holds water, it can be a sump. I've seen people use 5-gallon buckets. Mm-hmm. So I think sometimes too, you can break the rules by using equipment you wouldn't normally use, or things you wouldn't normally use for an aquarium, and use them in an aquarium. Mm-hmm. So, janky sump is also a hack.
Yeah, and I think like even for like maintenance equipment, like toothbrushes. Mm-hmm. Oh, for sure. You know what I mean? Like especially when I would go to like the daycare centers and I'd bring out the toothbrush and they'd be like, "Oh, is that your toothbrush?" And all the boys would be
brought
like,
it from home.
Yeah. They're like, "Did you use it?" And I'm like, "What do you guys think?" And the boys would all be like, "Yeah, do it." And the girls are like, "Ew." But
scrub the skimmer first and then.
Yeah, exactly. But that's another one. I have these, it's actually meant for like body wash. It's like almost like a
loofah.
Oh, what?
A loofah?
No, it's not. It's like a silicone almost material, but it's great for cleaning skimmers.
And it's got the little handle on the back.
No, it has like I'll bring it in next time and show it.
Can you have show and tell?
Yeah, exactly. But that it works really, really well for skimmers because it holds up really well. But they use it for like a body scrub. I found it at like this at Patina, and actually it was shaped like a fish. And then I ended up finding them at it's not an aquarium product at all, but it works great. So that's another like be good or be good at it. I'm good at finding the DIY things in a pinch. I mean, I've used a credit card if I didn't have an algae scraper. That does work. So
Important to note that we shouldn't use anything with scents, because I feel like a lot of sponges and scrubby things have
yeah,
scents for
that's
people
fair.
that are in there. So that's something I always read before I grab anything related to that. Is it scented?
Yeah, this is just like a plastic. It's like a
Yeah.
silicone sponge thing that you'd use for like body wash, or like, yeah, I don't know if you'd use it. Maybe even like a dish type thing, but it works really
Mhm.
really well. But a credit card can be used as an algae scraper. That works really well. I also have used when I'm doing like vacation feeding. A lot of times, if you're going on vacation and you have someone that's not like like knowledgeable, they tend to overfeed. So I use pill containers. So like Monday through Sunday, and
Ah,
I would put them all in there so that all they have to do is pop one in and do it. And then it's like, that's all they need. And obviously it works only for dry foods. I mean, I guess you could put the pill container in the freezer with frozen foods too as well. But
Just use ice cube tray for frozens.
yeah, and
Yeah.
then do it. So that's another kind of hack, like being good at just kind of improvising and at times when when you need to.
yeah, I love hacks, especially I feel like I'm sure for you guys, I know for myself, and for probably a lot of people listening, one of the most terrifying things is going on vacation and having your tanks in the hands of somebody who maybe is not an aquarium enthusiast, and trying to figure out, okay, how do I set this up in such a way that
Yes.
they cannot, this is idiot proof. Because there's so many things that can go wrong. I had a flow chart at one point. I was like, okay, there is water on the ground. We're gonna follow this flow chart to figure
Yeah,
out
it's like
how do we deal with
pick
it.
your ending, how to deal with, yeah, just
Yeah.
like the medicine chart is your fish. Does it have spots? Go here. Does it not have spots? Go here. Does it have sores? Go here.
Oh my gosh, yeah. And it's just anything can go wrong. And I think even when it comes to like we've been talking about breaking rules and things like that, sometimes it just goes really wrong. An example I have of one of my great catastrophes kind of circles back to what I was talking about with hacking cycling, where we had a tank where I think I had maybe 5 days of downtime on this tank where I could actually cycle. It was about 350 gallon cube, really beautiful, right in the middle of like our exhibit. So I could not have it down for very long. Completely installed a new tank, much larger, lots of build time. So for me, from like actual plumbing to water and animals in tank, it was probably like 4 or 5 days.
Wow.
So I tried my best to cycle this as quickly as I could. Thought I followed all the rules. Didn't know nearly as much now or then that I do now. So wasn't paying attention to oxygen levels. Was not paying attention to alkalinity. Didn't heat up the water at all. Was just like, I'm going to throw as much bacteria in here as I possibly can. And that tank had the most spectacular outbreak of hair algae I have ever dealt with. It was pretty much astroturf. And it was for a year. For like a year, I had this astro to the point where I'm like, it's part of the tank now. This is who this tank is. The lowest violet, it had one large lionfish in it. And I maintained the most magnificent carpet of hair algae I've ever seen. It was glorious. and I also managed to have in this same tank some Caribbean acroporas, which are notoriously the most pain in the butt coral you'll ever deal with. Acropora cervicornis and palmata, so elkhorn and staghorn coral, are notoriously just the worst to rear and grow. But those coral that were in that tank with all of that hair algae were living their best possible life. I had this is one of early on, and when I first was interacting with Jake Adams, he came for a visit, and probably the best compliment I ever received was, "What the hell did you do to that coral?" Because of how fuzzy they were. But objectively, even though those coral were doing great, the tank was a disaster
Looks
to
like
look
hot
at.
garbage.
Yeah.
And I had to pull every bit of rock out. I hydrogen peroxided it to get all that algae off. I think I did fluconazole. Like I did everything and I think I ended up having to finally just replace all of the rock and start from scratch. Now it's a beautiful reef.
Oh,
But at the time, it was my biggest nightmare ever.
Must have been some sort of turf or something, turf algae.
Oh my God. I think it was Bryopsis because the fluconazole, I knocked it back with a very mild hydrogen peroxide like scrub on the rocks, and then we treated with fluconazole, and it finally knocked it back and killed it off. But now even knowing what I do now about just kind of willy-nilly use of antibiotics too, I kind of like, that wasn't my greatest moment either of being driven to that point. But yeah, that was my big, I thought I was so slick. I was like, I'm gonna get this pulled off. And just a year of just heartache and sorrow and late nights dealing with that algae and early mornings. So what do you guys got?
So there was a product that we all know, it starts with a V, used to remove algae. And when I was newbie in the fish store, you always get the reps or product pushers coming in and, oh, this is the greatest, latest, yada, yada. So as a store, we fed into this story. And I did use it on a tank that was so covered in bubble algae that the client thought she had emeralds growing in her tank. And unfortunately, it's just bubble algae, nothing worthwhile. But we did.
What a way to view it.
You know what? There was part of me that was like, she could continue to think this and I could do nothing because she likes it. She thinks it's emeralds. So,
yeah.
Can I leave it?
Love it?
See, there you go. It's a macro tank. But I did get rid of it with this product. But what happened was it basically nuked everything else. I mean, the coral lived. It did live. I mean, we were on a protocol of dosing, cleaning. So it wasn't just sporadic or it wasn't large doses and then nothing. It was very managed. But the tank just looked so sad. And it was just green star polyps, some zoas. The green star polyp, imagine killing green star polyp. It's so hard to do. You can leave it in buckets and it won't die. And this stuff was just a tiny little bit of green would come out. They wouldn't fully extend. And it just looked terrible. So at one point we got a bacterial bloom and it was like we had a whiteout and we had to put a UV sterilizer on it. So a whole lot of doing way too much with product is one of those things that you feed into as a new hobbyist or even just as a store. Sometimes you get your product pusher reps or whatever coming in and you buy into it and you want to use it. But at the same time you want to sell it. So we don't always get the chance to experiment with these products before we get it on our shelves. And of course we pulled it immediately after we had enough time to use it. But I think that's one of those things that I've been guilty of is getting excited about a product and wanting to use it when I probably could have found another method to get rid of it that was probably safer. But you want that instant gratification.
I think a big component of kind of that being good at it is a healthy level of skepticism and a healthy level of understanding that taking a shortcut comes with risks. And while you absolutely are like, oh, I did all my due diligence, like I know what I'm doing, or I did all my research. I think even when you're cutting corners, you still got to do the hard work of knowing how that corner is being cut and why it works for it to be effective. And I've always been really hesitant to trust any product that's like a miracle product, or it took a ton of research for me to even use fluconazole as like an algicide. Like and even though I kind of regret that I did it, like I at least was like, okay, I know all of the things that could possibly go bad. So I think if you're another like big thing is just make sure that you have a healthy amount of skepticism when you're trying to break the rules, because there's a lot of people who will say things have worked for them, and they might have, but there's a really good chance anytime you break the rule, your tank is just different enough, it won't work.
Yeah.
Well, you want it to work. And so you don't trust your gut. You ignore your gut because you want it to work, because you want a quick way out. So sometimes it's not even that, like in the back of your head, you are skeptical, but your desire to want it to work overcomes. So you do it. So, I mean, I I still am like that now that I've been in it for much longer. I get that way, and then I'm like, no.
I'm too
Let
happy
me
about
just
this.
wait. Let me wait, and let some time go by and see if it still exists in the market. And
Yeah, we call that
next
chasing
2
the
years.
shiny. So it, like you're
Yeah.
talking about, Sarah, like you have to go back to the basics. So there's always going to be shiny things, new products, new this and that and that. But I mean, going back to the basics, like understanding, okay, well, there's not just like this magic. I found this underneath one of the aquariums that they're like, my tank's a mess. I use this product. It was called Sparkle. I've never heard of it before.
I have heard of Sparkle.
Okay.
It was a clarifier, I
or
think.
something. I don't even know. And she's like, but this is the product and it's gonna work. And Mom, I'm like, I have no idea what this Sparkle is. But I mean,
Yeah.
if it sounds too good to be true, it definitely is, because her tank was hot garbage. Nothing lived. And I mean, I don't think I have no idea if it was because of Sparkle. But I mean, it's buying into those things. And so, I mean, when you're a sales rep and you're good at it, it sounds fantastic. But I think another thing when we were talking about pre-show, I guess, was like, Chelsie, you were saying, like, if you're going to experiment, you do it on your own tank and not on, like us as maintenance clients, and not doing it on our clients' tanks. Needless to say, I did not buy a bottle of Sparkle. But I have used what you were talking about, Chelsie, that product as well. In my own personal tank when we had our huge collection of scolies, and that was devastating because we lost a lot of scolies that we will never be able to replace. And it was kind of like, you try everything and then you're like, okay, well, obviously this worked for somebody else. Let's try it on what else can go wrong. And it's like that, not understanding like what they actually do. I think knowing that right away is so important. And then deciding if it's worth the risk, I guess.
To like take some of the heat off of anyone who's used it, it was falsely advertised.
No,
so there
I
is
agree.
that.
Yeah.
So that happens sometimes, and then there's a public responsibility to bring that to light. So so that's another thing that can happen. You can use these products with knowledge based on what is on the bottle, right? Based on what you're told. And sometimes we get tricked. So that's just going to happen. You can't escape that you got lied to. But
well, I think it speaks to, right, no matter how long you've been in the hobby, there's still going to be hurdles or things that trip you up. Like you're both very experienced, and both of you had issues with the same product because of how it was marketed, how it was sold. So I think it also just goes to show you too, and I hope people get from us sharing kind of where we've messed up in the past, is that you're always going to mess up in this hobby. It's how do you overcome that? How do you bounce back from it? How do you keep going when that happens and learn to minimize those risks in the future? And a lot of cutting corners is, I think, too, I really try not to cut corners on something that I can't come back from if I cut that corner. Like, I really am not going to push the fold on something if I'm not very sure I can get myself out of that hole I dig for myself.
Risk evaluation.
So, yes, that risk assessment's huge. So when I'm cutting corners and going, okay, I'm running out of time, I can't do this water test this week, or I'm pushing back on my maintenance, I'm doing it with the understanding of, okay, I'm reading the coral's behavior, I'm reading my tank's behavior, I'm going off of a different set of cues than the numbers in a test, but understanding that I could mess that up and something could go wrong, and I might have 10 times more work for myself, but I know I can come back from that. So a lot of it too, especially when you're new and learning to cut corners, is cut tiny corners before big corners. Because
and just having that experience, you know what I mean? Like I can go in and look at a tank, and generally, like if people want to do a consult, like just send me a picture first. Send me a picture of your tank and of your filtration. And generally you can get a baseline. But, when I first started, I mean, like, I don't know. And then you start, running tests and doing all this other stuff, just trying to figure it out. But I mean, if they have, certain types of algae, or they have a whole bunch of the Asterina starfish, generally speaking, you have high nutrients. And so you learn that, but then like in the beginning, you're like, well, I'll just do a water change. Or I guess one of the biggest mistakes that I did in the beginning is like you want to hear what you want to do. So if like again, you're chasing the shiny of no water changes, add these things, then that you'll get your results, or add all of these things and then you won't have to do this. So it goes back to the basics of, just like anything else, what goes in has to come out of some sort. And so, I mean, if you add a sparkle, I mean, you can't add a chemical to make your tank cleaner. It just doesn't exist.
What were you, if you don't mind me asking, Jen, what were you trying to get rid of when you used that product?
Bubble algae.
Yeah.
I mean, they did a great job of marketing. I mean, that's just the thing. I mean, and
it did get rid of the bubble algae because it got rid of
everything else as well.
And your scolies, so it was a very expensive, devastating. I mean, because some of those things, I mean, my husband was a true collector. Like these were like his babies. Like, and so to lose one or two, I mean, they're one of a kind pieces. They're not something that I can ever replace. And I mean, that again, had I not cut the corner in the beginning, and you see the little patch of bubble algae, it doesn't just happen overnight. And so that's the problem. I cut the corner of not taking care of it immediately. Applications are the same way, where you see you have one and then you're like, oh, I don't know what happened. I have like 8,000. It's like, oh, I definitely remember that just one that I should have probably.
And I remember saying, I'll get it tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so then it just becomes your problem today and then tomorrow and all the other days. So I think that too is like you've already, so cutting corners with me, I'll throw myself under the bus, cutting corners of, I've done water changes all day long at, for work. And then I come home and I don't want to do it. And I know better. I know my corals, I'll just kind of watch them. And then all of a sudden, all these other types of problems pop up. So I cut that corner and then I tried to use a product that I wasn't very familiar with. And then I cut that corner and I learned my lesson. But I mean, you live and learn, I guess. But I think even, having other resources and learning from other people's mistakes, I guess, is much.
Someone's got to make the mistake so that we can learn from it.
Right. And then being,
absolutely.
Taking responsibility for it. Like, I tell my customers all day long, if I tell you, the day I tell you, I know everything there is, or there's one like Reef Bible, run away. There's no such thing. Everything is complete for every person is a little bit different. But with that being said, like Sara talked about, the basics are the same. You can cheat the nitrogens. I mean, you can cheat, having all these cycles, fast cycles and certain things, but there's certain things you absolutely just can't.
What are some more, now we know we've hit a bunch of negatives, I think. What are some positive cut corners?
What are some wins?
Yeah. Give us some wins.
Right.
Enough of
this negativity.
So one of my big wins was this is actually when it wasn't my tank, it was my dad's tank. And he loves fish. He's a coral guy, but he loves fish. So he always definitely leaned a little towards overstocking his tanks. And I think he had a yellow tang and a powder blue tang, and he was gonna get a purple tang. And we all know those yellows and the purples do not love each other. So we did a bunch of research and we hacked basically the behavior of those fish to deal with their aggression. So what we did was we took photos of a powder blue tang and a yellow tang, threw them up on the tank walls for those tanks to get pissed at the animals that looked identical to them, introduce the purple tang, and we would periodically remove those photos, put those photos back up, remove them, put them back up for about a week. And by the time we fully removed those photos, the tangs in the tank were like, oh, you've been here for a while. It's like, you're not new. We're not going to beat you up.
That's hilarious.
And they were fine. They were fine. It was 3 animals that should not have done well together because that powder blue tang was a jerk. Such a dick. And it worked because we kind of hacked their natural behavior. Another example of hacking animal behavior is with damselfish. If you cycled your tank with damsels, because that was a huge suggestion for a really long time. If you wanted to cycle with fish, it was damsels or clownfish.
Yep.
They're jerks. They're very territorial. Kind of one of the worst first fish to put in because they'll be jerks to any shire fish. You can pull everything out, get them out of the tank, reset up all your rock work and stuff like that, and it will actually they'll reestablish territory, and it'll make it so that they are nicer to the fish because they're like, oh, you were here first, I'm not going to fight you. So that's, again, hacking the biology.
You're in the dark.
I know. I don't know.
Another thing that we've done too for fish that don't get along, or you have one that you had, like I'll be the first to admit I've mixed tangs, especially like the zebra soma. So I have a black, a gem, a yellow, purple. I introduce them at the same time, generally speaking. But sometimes if you don't have that option, I know especially for if it just wasn't in your budget or whatever else there, so we've had the option of, like, for certain types of fish where we would catch them out, put them in the same bucket where they're acclimating the new one, and then put them in together like they're both brand new, and then kind of rearranging some of the territorial spots. And then they're like, oh, it's kind of like Dory and Nemo. It's like, oh, have I been here before? Like, and then it seems to work, at least for a while. And it is species specific. I mean, it's not going to work with, I mean, I've had a couple clients that try to define nature, and you're not going to be good at it because it's never going to exist in the ocean. So, like, a school of clown triggers, that doesn't exist. It doesn't exist in the biggest of oceans. You're not going to get it in your tank. I'm just going to say that right now. So he's tried, I don't know, maybe 20 clown triggers, none of which I absolutely refuse to sell them to him, because you do 6 at a time and then end up with one every single time. So
I've done this with sizing of fish, because you always have a dominant. Usually, I always tell my clients, you have a king or a queen or whatever they are. And you will notice this too, when your dominant fish dies off, someone else steps up. So sometimes I hack the system a little bit by getting the fish that are less dominant or less aggressive by nature, getting them a little bit bigger, and getting the more dominant fish by nature a little bit smaller. So we just did this in a new tank that I did, and we got a larger flame hawk and a Midas blenny, and then we got a Tamini tang, or Tomini, or however you want to say it, wherever you live in the United States or elsewhere. And we got a smaller tang, and you know who's the boss? The Midas blenny. Like, how often do you have the blenny being a boss over a tang? But it's all about sizing and all about input. And so I used to do this with cichlids too, when I started off with freshwater, pull the dominant, and we would even put them in a acclimation box, and just having them pulled away from the rest of the group long enough for someone else to step up. And you hope that you get a nicer ruler of the tank, and then you re-release. Sometimes works. So same theory with saltwater fish. You can sometimes acclimate box. And like you were saying, pull them from the tank, adjust their territory. But even just pulling them back from everybody else long enough for someone else to be like, actually, you know what? I think I want to be the boss.
Yeah. Create a kind of a Game of Thrones situation versus like a Napoleon Bonaparte.
Yeah, because a lot of times that's being good at it. Not being good at it is like, let them just fight it out, because that's not a good idea, generally speaking.
Well, fish are just like all other animals that have hierarchy and dominance, and all the people don't realize that. I think in the beginning that we see it we forget it when we see it with our dogs and our cats and our whatever, that it translates directly back into our aquarium. The same thing.
Well, yeah, and they're in an enclosed area, so it's like not only, it's like fight to the death almost. So I mean, that's just So I've done that when we paired our clarions. So we at the store we do have a pair of clarion angels, and we had the big. Clarice was the first one that we got, and then I introduced a small baby, and I'm like, okay, I had no idea. I did it wrong the first time. I'm like, oh, I'm just gonna drop them in and be like, okay, this is, and then about 25 minutes later, and I realized that that was a terrible idea, but it's fully escaped. So about 6 hours later, after I had took every single rock out of a 500 gallon to catch the big one, and then I let the other one kind of establish first, and then let kind of Clarice just look at it and be like, I'm going to get you, and then eventually just get over it. And now they're a pair. But it took I mean, I definitely wouldn't do that again, especially with a clearing angel.
So what are some examples? We talked a little bit about kind of hacking biology. How do you hack yourself to get things done? I think that's a big one for me, is figuring out how I tick. And how do I make myself work better for my tank? So how do I break my own like written rules of how I function to make things easier for myself? I have an example of this was hacking somebody else, but we had when I worked at the fish store, we had these large sumps that you would have to for our display tanks, and they'd take like 30-45 minutes to fill. And everybody else would sit there and wait for the 30 to 45 minutes for the sump to fill after you had dumped it to do water changes. But our manager at the time loved to walk away and do other things because he was like, I will remember.
No.
Spoiler alert, he never remembered. So we would have daily floods of water everywhere that we'd be cleaning up. Thankfully, we had cement floors, lots of floor drains. But one of the ways we kind of hacked him was Sump Monkey. So one of those, those kids' toys with like the Velcro arms, those monkeys that like hang around you. So anytime he had to fill up a sump, he had to wear Sump Monkey. And that way it would sort of remind him when he walked away that he was filling up a giant vat of water that could very easily overflow. And that got it down to one flood a week as opposed to every day.
Which is,
I've had some of my maintenance techs, like, so what we do as a hack is like, they'll unplug, like we have Apexes, but for some reason they just don't want to use them or whatever. They'll unplug the ATO because it'll beep once you shut off the system. So what I do is I make them actually hang their car keys or the van keys next to that plug so that they can't actually leave without plugging the ATO back in. And that seems to work. I mean, you could do it with any other type of, equipment that you always forget to do, but putting something there that you can't leave without. But making them
super smart.
Leave there. Yeah. So I have like these little carabiners, and then you just hook it right next to it. And it seems it's worked itself out, but there's other people that I didn't actually make that one up. I learned it from someone else, but I'm like, that is genius. Cause there's always that one piece of equipment you forget to plug back in, or, you forget for your, filling sumps or whatever, also setting timers. So we've kind of mastered it. Like I know at the store to fill the saltwater bins, we've flooded a billion times, just like anybody else. But setting timers. And then I've also done and you can bleep this out, but we've done shit drains where we actually will put, like at the very top, you'd put you'd put a hole in your container and then have that drain to the floor. So just in case you forgot, then it could go to, because I actually walked into the store one day and it was raining inside because our RO above,
because it's gravity fed. My God.
And my RO unit is like state of the art, and it does like thousands of gallons a day. And so literally, we lost tons and tons and tons of, obviously all of our lights, like all of our, at the time, all of our radians, we lost a lot of things. And we're lucky that the whole store didn't burn down. But it was one and done for that one. Then we incorporated the shit drains to everything because that worked for us. So that's my hack for in my employees. That is like, either you get good at reminding them 100 times, or you just get good at finding different solutions to that problem that that's going to happen.
We would do little clips, like, because we wore collared shirts, and so we had this like heavy clip that we would clip to our shirt or our hair. Like if you've got long hair, clip to it so that there's like an annoyance that's bothering you.
And a reminder.
Why is this here? Oh, because I'm feeling the sump. But also just that you weren't allowed to leave certain areas unless you were done your task. So no multitasking. This is a singular task job. And you are assigned to that. And no one else is assigned to it, because then we have two people talking to each other. So no. Like this happened a lot of times when we knew someone was dosing medication. No talking to that person. They're doing math. Anything involving math was like, everyone go away.
You get a math bubble. You don't get to be a person. You are a calculator right now. Don't talk to anybody. No talking.
And it also
no
depends on the time of
math
day.
zone.
Because in the morning, you definitely need a bigger math zone than in the afternoon. Because I feel like mathing before noon is really tough.
Before noon. I love it.
So anything that needs of the utmost importance is assigned a task. And if you need something that annoys you personally to make you remember that you're doing something kind of like the monkey or the other drain holes, then those are things that ping your memory.
Yeah. I like, so I would always, anybody who's like got larger RO vats, I'm sure our RO, it connects to another RO for the salt water, and you have to open it to pump water through and then close it up. And I would just have stress dreams, or like wake up at 2 a.m. and be like, I left the valve open.
And it's raining in the store. Weird.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And then like 9 times out of 10, I did not. I was just having terrible dreams. But I started taking photos of the valve closed to try and that way I could check. I could be like, oh, I have a photo of today, valve is closed, or oh god, I don't have a photo of the valve is probably open. Should
drive
warn
back to the store
morning team will come into flood. So that was like a way to deal with myself and like remind myself, oh no, I did it. And you could do that too. Like if you're somebody who like panics before you go on vacation, or you're going to be out of town or away, just take a photo of your tank, of the things that you normally are like, I'm not sure I did this. Snag a photo and it will help ease your mind.
Ease your mind so that you can be on it. I agree. Like a non-fish tank related thing is like when people, I left the stove on, or I left the garage door open. It's the same thing, you know? So just having that mental reminder, like, oh, is this hooked up? Or what is this? What is this? I mean, there's a lot of monitoring systems that,
cameras
and cameras too. Yes. That you can, resource, but there's those couple things that, you just, whatever your trigger is, just take a picture or make an annoying clip on your shirt or whatever it is that, just to remind you, because we're all busy. That's the thing. I mean, there's one thing that we all need to be good at. And I mean, we all have to multitask in life. And that's just like, doing your water changes, doing all these other things while you're doing life too. It's not a bad. And let's be honest, I'm not getting any younger. So forgetting things or, multitasking is, daily occurrence.
I find that I talk to myself a lot more as I get older, because I'm trying to talk out loud to remember things. And I'm literally trying to convince my brain snaps, like make a new pathway away from your old ways.
I say it out loud, I'll remember it.
And so I have to catch myself, because I will be at services and I'll be like, return pump, check, lights, check. Like I'll go through a verbal checklist out loud as I'm doing it. And I'm just talking to myself all day.
Are you talking to somebody? It's like, don't worry about it. I got this.
I talk to myself.
My clients know
myself
too.
and I go away.
Yeah, I do the same thing. I'm like, and that's done, and that's done, and that's done, that's done, that's done. You know what I mean? That I do that too, just because I feel like if I say it out loud, then I'll remember that I said it out loud or something. I'm not sure.
There's like I think it's engineering or programming where it's like a rubber duck, where basically they have a rubber duck that they're supposed to, when you hit a problem, you're supposed to talk to the rubber duck about your problem and like go through your entire process. And the whole purpose is by saying it out loud, it's easier for your brain to figure out what is going wrong. So I think we need more rubber ducks in the hobby.
Oh my gosh.
Rubber coral. Talk to your torch.
That's
coral.
Awesome. We actually have New Wave. We brought them to one of the trade shows, New Wave rubber ducks. Now it has another multi-purpose. So there's a hack.
Absolutely.
Except when half my day spends in front of the rubber duck, people are going to think I'm really weird. Just talking
Don't
about
just
all
talk
my
into a rubber duck like
talking
a
about all my
lot.
problems, just making them all
I already
real.
talked to fish, so now you
That's
just
fair.
talk to a rubber duck.
The fish
Yeah, you can just talk
whisperer.
to your fish. Who needs a rubber duck? That's extra expense. Be frugal. Use
Yeah.
your, $500 fish.
Mhm.
That's the cheaper option.
Oh, I'm going to bring that up before we finish up. So that is something. Be good or be good at it. Splurging on, so say for this example, this sump that I got, splurging on this sump and then skimping on something else that's really important.
Yes.
I just think that, you have to balance and understand like why you need all of these things. And I mean, some of them you do, some of them you don't, but there's like the handful of things that you absolutely have to have or need that you just can't skimp on. So I think every one of us is guilty of skimping on something. Whether back in the day it was like, well, I don't want to pay for these LEDs, so I'll just get these LEDs, and then your house burns down, or you burn, like you have no idea what the par is, or you know what I mean, and then you end up having to rebuy things like 10 times, and it's end up being, because let's be honest, this is not an inexpensive hobby. This is an expensive hobby.
Yeah.
And so making, just understanding like what, then there are things that you can, get away with, used equipment of certain things. Things that will stand the test of time, but let's be honest, heaters are not one of those things.
I was
Return
about to
pumps
say heater,
are
yeah.
not one of those things. So
They're
those
not.
are like your heartline and the major fail points. Those are one thing that if you take anything away from this, like be good at picking your equipment,
Not the corner to cut.
not the corner to cut, and I mean, heaters are the number one things. Like don't buy used heaters. Just don't.
I'm not super big on like trying to buy the fanciest thing. I think there's a lot of really good, robust, kind of middle of the road pieces of equipment where I'm like, I don't need it to be able to turn on my coffee machine. Like,
Right.
I just need it to be a return pump. But when it comes to heaters, that is something because I will always have redundancies on a heater, whereas
Yeah.
I might cut a corner and not have a redundancy on something else, sometimes to my detriment, but I have always had redundancies on heaters because there's nothing like boiling your whole tank to make you realize that they are one of the most finicky pieces of equipment if you don't go for a good quality one.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean,
where you put that probe for your heater too, because I've seen those probes out of the water, which is going to give you a false reading. It's going to cause failure, or in a part of the sump that's isolated from the heater, so it's automatically a different temperature, and the heater's trying to heat that, and then the chamber that it's in is boiling hot water and probably boiling hot bacteria as well. So yeah, making sure that you have those probes. I always think that's a nice feature of a heater, is not having just the internal temperature probe, but having an external as well.
And then redundancy. So like we run like a lot of monitoring systems on ours, whether, whatever one it may be, but having that, I never plug just a straight up element into and let that be reliant on just the probe, always having a secondary, because again, baking your fish is generally, most everybody has done something where the heat has overcooked you know what I mean? And it's just devastating. Whether even if you didn't lose fish right away, corals, like 2 or 3 weeks, you start seeing it's still happening. We're still losing things. So that, I'm glad we brought up the heater thing, because that's a number one piece of equipment that fails.
I think
I'll do a little bit of a hot take.
Sarah.
I think you can totally go with cheaper lighting. I know some people are like really like they want the super expensive lights that can do dawn and dusk and moon cycles and stuff like that. If you're, spawning coral, awesome. That's great. That's super important. You can get away with cheaper LED strips, or you don't need to go super fancy with your lighting, because you can always, if you don't have a controller on your light that's going to turn it on and off, just standard timer usually works fine. Just make sure you have it in timer on, not outlet on. Otherwise, you're going to have tons of algae. Like, that's an area where I know I personally cut corners will be on lighting. and skimp out depending on the tank. In certain corals, it's much more important to have that really wide color spectrum than other corals too. So again, it's knowing what's in your system and what you can cut that corner for. But you don't need a coral light on a Fowler tank.
Yeah.
Like,
but also maybe you do need to know a little bit about spectrum if you're going to go crazy on choosing bulbs off Amazon, or even knowing puck configuration of LEDs, because I know there's a popular light that people are using that's actually for plants. And so it has it's predominant red and green puck,
which is great.
And there's
for
no
algae.
Control. It's great for algae, but there's no, and that'd be fine. Yeah. And a refugium, that's fine. It's fine if you have control and you can say, well, okay, that's fine, but I only want them set at 5%. But a lot of them don't. And so then you get this light and you haven't checked the puck configuration, and you have like 2 white pucks, 2 blue pucks, and 5 or 10 of the other color, green and red. So know a little bit about spectrum if you're going to do bulbs or certain LEDs.
Fair. Just like anything, do your, you know what I mean? Learn from someone else's mistakes, do your research. And generally speaking, you get what you pay for. So if you're going to, skimp on something, if it sounds just like any product, sounds too good to be true. I mean, I had high hope. I'm just kidding. For Sparkle. We're going to go back to Sparkle.
It's for Sparkle.
I'm trying to remember this product because I swear I came across it at one point, and it totally looks like something that came off the bottom shelf at Walmart, like just like weird.
No, it literally was like, it's like a clear bottle. It looks like one of those infomercials, and it just has Sparkle on it. And
just sparkle across it. I think it was a flocculant. Like I think it was like a clarifier. So it's not like supposed to make stuff look good, except for clarifying your tank if you have particulates that you're trying to. Because the way flocculant works is
and
it
then
attaches and drops out. So, I think it might have actually been okay as a product, like not terrible, but if she wasn't using it correctly.
No, exactly. So again, using, right tool, right job. And then, just knowing that you get what you pay for, and then also just doing a little bit of research, you can, there's a lot of really awesome aquarium hacks that you can do. And we're always learning and always changing, and that's the fun. That is actually part of why people get into the hobby. It's that's all we're doing is we're learning how to keep this big box of water, and we're cheating nature. That's what we're doing. We're combining it into a box. We're hacking it right there. So just getting good at it, but understanding like what you're actually doing. If you don't know what the nitrogen cycle is, maybe we should start with like a beta or something.
And I think that's the at the end of the day, the takeaway, right, is be good until you can be good at it. And being good at it really relies on a fundamental understanding of how your ecosystem works, how your animals work, how things work. So really be careful about trying to push the boundaries in big ways if you aren't willing to do the background research and understand how things work. It takes a lot of effort to be able to cut the right corners.
Yeah, agreed. And I don't live by, there's never time to do it right, but always time to do it over, because that's what's going to happen. So just kind of learning, doing it right. I can thank my dad for telling me that a million times.
Absolutely.
My dad's favorite was fail to plan, plan to fail.
There you go.
Yep.
Oh, dads.
Yep.
Dads and their sayings.
Dadderisms. Yeah. And I think that's that wisdom's really important. And I think a big thing too is just, you're gonna fail. You're gonna cut the wrong corner. You're going to do something that's gonna end in something going wrong. And that's okay. We have literally all been there. We totally understand. And what comes next is the most important part. Do you learn from that mistake and get up and get better? Or do you wallow in that mistake and cash out? And I think the people who really stick around in this hobby have that resilience to go, yeah, I really screwed the pooch on this one, but I'm going to get better next time. And the more you do that, the more you learn and the more you can then start going, oh, I can really start to have fun with this.
I got it.
Mm-hmm.
I love
So
it.
I think oh, what were you gonna say, Jen?
I'm just saying I love it. I think that's a great ending to learning and growing.
Yeah, well, this has been an awesome session. It's so much fun to get to talk about kind of the things we maybe don't normally tell people about breaking rules and cutting corners and things we wish maybe we did better. But this has been such a blast. It's always wonderful getting to talk with you, Jen and Chelsie. Next week or next session, we'll hopefully have Evie back and be able to talk about more fun stuff. As always, please subscribe or like. If there's things you want us to talk about, throw it down in those comments. And also tell us the ways you break the rules or cut corners.
I just thought of one. It's too late though, isn't it?
No, throw it in. This is
real quick
PS on this podcast.
PSSSSS all the way down the line. This is a last moment thing that I've thought of that I have used multiple times. My clients have used multiple times. They have an RODI unit, but they don't have a reservoir. So they're filling into their jugs, which, as we all know, quickly overflow. So what I've had them do is put the whole jug inside their washing machine. So then you get an extra 20 gallons that you can just quickly go right down the drain, because you just take the overflowed jug out and you turn your washing machine on and do a drain cycle, and it's gone.
That's a really good one.
It kind of is. I kind of like that. I think that's a really good ending point. I like
because your RODI is like, a lot of them have that hooked up next to their washer and dryer. So just take the whole jug and put it in the washer.
There you go. I love it.
That's it. That's all I got. And good night.
All right. Till next time, ladies. I gotta go eat something before I starve.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.